My sister-in-law didn't just steal my money, she stole my name. She took 10 years of my life, my recipes, my bakery, the smell of my kitchen at 4 in the morning, and she sold it to a corporation for a corner office and a signing bonus. And when I found the email thread, the one where she called me the artisanal idiot who never learned to trademark, I realized she hadn't just betrayed me. She'd studied me. She'd waited for the exact moment I was too tired to notice. She was wrong about one thing, though. I may be an artisan, but I am also very good with paperwork. My name is Maya. I'm 34 years old and I am a baker, not a hobbyist, not an influencer, a baker. For 10 years, I have owned Maya's Oven, a storefront on Birch Street no bigger than a 2-car garage. I make sourdough with a starter I cultivated in my studio apartment when I was 23. I make cardamom buns that people drive 2 hours to buy. I make a honey lavender loaf that's sold out every Saturday for 3 years straight. I work 16-hour days. My hands are scarred from oven burns. My shoulders click when I lift my arms. I have never taken a vacation. I have never had an employee who wasn't family. And I trusted my sister-in-law, Patricia, with every number in my life. Patricia married my older brother, David, 6 years ago. She was sharp, polished, a corporate accountant who wore blazers to Thanksgiving. When I opened the bakery, she offered to handle my books. Pro bono. Family takes care of family, she said, and she was good. She found tax deductions I didn't know existed. She structured my LLC. She helped me lease the industrial mixer that changed my output. I loved her. I was grateful for her. When she had my niece, I baked the gender reveal cake for free. When she and David bought their house, I catered the housewarming. I considered her my sister in every way that mattered. The bakery was supposed to be my legacy. Not a fortune, just something real, something that outlasted me. The discovery happened on a Thursday in March. I was at the Regional Food Expo, walking the convention floor in comfortable shoes and a flour-stained apron, looking for a new vanilla supplier. I turned a corner near the frozen goods pavilion and there it was. A booth the size of a small aircraft hangar, bright green and white. A massive banner with a photograph of my honey lavender loaf, my scoring pattern, my crust. The sign read, Fresh Harvest Presents, Maya's Oven, Artisan Quality, Nationwide Scale. I walked toward it in a daze. A woman in a headset was handing out samples. They were my samples. A cardamom bun I had perfected in 2019. The exact same spice ratio. The exact same fold. I picked one up. It was machine-made. It was wrong, but it was mine. Are you a buyer? The woman asked. This line is launching in 400 stores next quarter. Our director of product development discovered this brand. Brilliant acquisition. I couldn't speak. I just pointed at the banner. That's my name. She smiled, confused. Well, it's Fresh Harvest's property now. But the original creator was compensated, I'm sure. You should talk to Patricia Vance. She's the director. She's actually giving a keynote at 2. Patricia Vance, my sister-in-law, standing on a stage in 40 minutes presenting my life's work as her corporate triumph. I didn't go to the keynote. I went home. I sat in my dark kitchen, the same kitchen where I had mixed dough at midnight while Patricia sat at my desk doing my taxes. I opened my laptop. I pulled up the Secretary of State Business Registry. I searched Maya's Oven. There were 2 listings now. The first was mine. Maya Chen, sole proprietor, registered 2016. The second was Maya's Oven Holdings, LLC, registered 18 months ago. Owner, Patricia Vance. Managing member, Fresh Harvest Acquisition Group. I clicked deeper. There was a trademark application, filed by Patricia, for the name Maya's Oven. For the logo I had hand-drawn. For the product descriptions I had written on my website. The application listed her as the creator and original owner. It had been approved 6 months ago. Then I found the asset purchase agreement, dated 8 months prior. Patricia, as authorized agent and majority rights holder, had sold the licensing rights to Fresh Harvest for $280,000, plus a 3-year employment contract, plus stock options. I had never signed anything. I had never been asked. I had never seen a dollar. I called my brother that night. David answered, and I could hear Patricia in the background, laughing at something on television. I told him what I had found. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Maya, Patricia told me you two discussed this. She said you wanted out, that the bakery was crushing you, that you agreed to sell the brand and keep the storefront as a local thing. I never said that. She has documents, Maya. She showed me. They're forged. He sighed. It was the same sigh my father used when I was 12 and insisted my bike had been stolen, not lost. Don't make this ugly. She's family. She got you a good deal. You're just upset because you saw the booth before she could explain it properly. I hung up. I didn't sleep. I went to the bakery at 3 in the morning, the way I always did, and I stood in the dark, smelling the yeast, and I cried until my ribs hurt. Then I opened my filing cabinet. I started pulling every document Patricia had ever given me, every tax return, every LLC amendment, every routine update she had asked me to sign. That was when I found the pattern. Patricia hadn't just stolen my brand in one move. She had been preparing for years. 3 years ago, she had filed an amendment to my LLC, converting it from a single member to a multi-member structure. She had listed herself as a 50% owner. The signature looked like mine. It was not mine. 2 years ago, she had opened a business credit card in the bakery's name. The statements went to her office. She had maxed it out on consulting services from a shell company she controlled. 1 year ago, she had filed a trade secret assignment document with the state, transferring my recipes to Maya's Oven Holdings. My recipes, written in my notebooks, photographed on my phone. She had built a paper trail that made me look like a silent partner, a figurehead, the artisanal face of a company she had engineered. I went to my parents' house the next Sunday. I brought the documents. I laid them on the dining table, page by page, and I explained. My father listened with his arms crossed. My mother kept looking at the door, as if waiting for Patricia to arrive and fix everything. When I finished, my father said, "Maya, you're a baker, you're not a businesswoman. Patricia saw potential you couldn't see, she scaled it. That's what business looks like. She forged my signature, Dad, or you signed something you didn't read. You're always so emotional, so busy with your dough. Maybe you agreed and forgot." My mother touched my hand. "Maya, David says Patricia is willing to give you $10,000 from the sale, as a goodwill gesture. Don't ruin the family over a business decision." I looked at them. I looked at the walls covered in photos of my brother's wedding, my niece's birthday, the family portraits where Patricia stood in the center and I stood at the edge, holding a tray of scones. I put the documents back in my folder. I said, "You're right, it's just business." Then I drove home, and I became a businesswoman. For 2 weeks, I said nothing. I let Patricia think I had accepted her $10,000 offer. I let her post on LinkedIn about her visionary acquisition. I let my brother call me and tell me he was proud of me for being mature. And every night after I finished baking, I worked. I hired Vivian Okonkwo. She was a 60-year-old intellectual property attorney with a voice like a church organ and a reputation for destroying corporations that stole from small creators. I told her everything. She listened. Then she said, "Maya, your sister-in-law committed federal trademark fraud. She filed a false statement with the USPTO. She forged your signature on state business documents. She transferred assets to a shell company she controlled, and she sold those assets to a publicly traded corporation. This isn't a family dispute. This is wire fraud, mail fraud, and criminal forgery. And Fresh Harvest, they have a due diligence team. They either failed spectacularly or they knew. Either way, they are liable." Vivian subpoenaed Patricia's emails, not from her personal account, from her Fresh Harvest corporate server. Corporations keep everything, and Patricia had been careless. I will never forget reading them, not because they hurt, but because they made me so calm. Patricia to Fresh Harvest VP, 11 months ago, the original owner is a family member. Sentimental, not strategic. She doesn't understand IP value. I can secure full rights quietly. She trusts me completely. By the time she notices, the deal will be closed and she'll be too nice to litigate. She's the type who apologizes when you step on her foot. Fresh Harvest VP, risk assessment, Patricia, minimal. She has no attorney, no business education. She literally needs bread for a living. I've already converted the LLC structure and assigned the recipes. She signed the documents without reading them. She's an artisanal idiot who never learned to trademark. We're clear. Attached was a photograph. Patricia had taken it at my bakery 2 years ago. It was my recipe notebook, open on my counter, my handwriting, my ratios. She had sent it to them as proprietary documentation for due diligence. She had photographed my private notebook in my private kitchen and sold it. I read that email at 2 in the morning, sitting on my kitchen floor, and I felt something shift. It wasn't rage. It was clarity. Patricia had spent years studying me. She had cataloged my trust, my work ethic, my reluctance to read fine print because I was too busy making something beautiful. She had turned my love for my family into a business strategy, so I used her strategy against her. Vivian filed a federal lawsuit. Copyright infringement, trademark fraud, conversion of trade secrets, and civil racketeering. She also filed a criminal complaint with the Department of Justice's Intellectual Property Task Force. And then she made a call to Fresh Harvest's general counsel. Corporations do not like risk. Fresh Harvest was preparing an IPO. The last thing they needed was a federal fraud lawsuit from a small business owner with documented forgeries and a sympathetic jury narrative. Their general counsel reviewed Patricia's emails. Their due diligence team reviewed the signatures. Within 72 hours, Fresh Harvest made a decision. They terminated Patricia for cause. They issued a public statement distancing themselves from the acquisition and announcing an internal review of asset verification protocols. They returned all trademark rights to me, and they settled. The settlement was not public, but I can tell you this, it was enough to buy the building on Birch Street outright. It was enough to hire 2 full-time bakers and give them health insurance. It was enough to never worry about vanilla prices again. Patricia's criminal case moved slower, but it moved. The forged LLC amendments were verified by a handwriting expert. The false USPTO filing was referred to federal prosecutors. The shell company she had used to invoice the bakery was exposed as a tax evasion vehicle. She had hidden the Fresh Harvest payment through it and failed to report $280,000 in income. The IRS opened their own investigation. David called me 6 months later. He didn't apologize for choosing her side. He apologized for not looking at the documents himself. He told me she had done the same thing to him. She had drained their joint savings into the shell company. She had forged his name on a home equity loan to invest in her career. He was filing for divorce. He asked if I would testify. I said yes. Not for revenge. For the record. My parents came to the bakery last month. My mother bought a cardamom bun. She stood at the counter and ate it in silence. When she finished, she said, "It tastes like honesty." I didn't know what to say to that. I just gave her a second one on the house. Here is what I know now. There is a particular cruelty reserved for people who mistake your love for ignorance, who see your hands in dough and assume your mind is soft, who believe that because you create something beautiful, you must be too naive to protect it. Patricia looked at me and saw a baker. She never saw the woman who had survived a decade of 4 a.m. mornings, of broken ovens, of customers who yelled and suppliers who lied. She never saw the discipline. She never saw the hunger. I did not burn her office down. I did not sabotage her marriage. I did not post her emails online. I simply took the thing she believed I didn't understand, the law, the contract, the fine print, and I used it exactly as she had taught me to, with precision, with patience, with no room for sentiment. My name is still on the awning on Birch Street. It is still my sourdough starter. It is still my honey lavender loaf. And every morning at 4 a.m., when I turn on the ovens and the kitchen fills with heat and possibility, I remember that being the nice one is not the same as being the foolish one. You can be gentle with your dough and ruthless with your boundaries. You can feed the people you love and starve the people who steal from you. And if someone ever tries to take your name and sell it back to you, you do not have to bake them a cake. You can simply show them the receipt for everything they took and demand it back with interest.